Good morning. This is 1 in 36, a presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. 1 in 36 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm the Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And with me today are two of my, I'm going to call you colleagues because we have worked, really closely with Special Olympics New York for a long time at Anderson. So although you don't work for Anderson, we work sort of collectively around our mission to optimize the quality of life for individuals with autism. Ellen Pikula, you are the Regional Director of Mid-State for Special Olympics New York. Great.
That is correct.
All right. Great. And then Will Smith, Program and Development Specialist at Special Olympics New York and a 26-year athlete. So thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. So I've worked at Anderson for 17 years. And during that time, the Anderson Blue Knights, who are our team, have participated with Special Olympics New York in a capacity that kind of ebbed and flowed depending on what was going on in the world and where, what sports were new, what were our athletes were interested in training for, and sort of the coaching availability, all of which maybe we'll touch on today. But it's always been a really wonderful part of the program. Our athletes love it. Their families really love it. I've had a chance to go to the state games, maybe not the state games, but the West Point games, which was always a highlight when that was happening. And I think that the role that Special Olympics New York has, at least for the Anderson athletes, has really been to beautifully complement all of the other work that they're involved in reaching their individual and team goals. So with that being said, I'm wondering, Ellen, if you could talk a little bit about your background, what brought you to your role today, and share with us anything really new or exciting that's going on in your work.
Sure. I started with Special Olympics here, not right here, but in this particular area in 1992. So I've been with Special Olympics 32 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'll be here forever, I think. I plan on retiring out of this particular job, which is a fantastic thing to say, and particularly in today's day and age. It's kind of a fun thing. So I appreciate, like Will has been with the organization with Special Olympics and participating for 26 years. So I've seen him from the day he came in, and that's just, it's great. Like I've seen him when he was a little kid participating, and now he's my employee. It's just like an awesome transition. But it's just, it's one of those things. Special Olympics is a lovely organization where you get caught up in it and you spend your entire life in different multiple parts of it. And so many of my friends are involved in various aspects of the organization doing different things. In fact, I just called one of my friends down in Florida and said, "Hey, can you help out? I need this. This is your specialty. Can you do this?" And they created a piece for something that Will was putting together as part of his project for the Athlete Leadership Council. And so my friend down in Florida did this thing to help them out, which was just fantastic. And I think that's what Special Olympics is all about. It's about so many different facets of getting people involved with different things. I'm not exactly answering your question, but
no, you are. You're doing a great job. Keep going.
There's just so many different facets and way to get involved with our organization, and everybody has an impact in their own way. And I think that's what makes our organization so fantastic and wonderful. There's no one thing that someone can't do that's going to help us. So that's part of what makes every day new and exciting about what it is that we do. Somebody that has a disability can come and work with us to help us out. So there's no limit. There's no limit as to who can help us and how they can help us. And that's very unique to what it is that we do.
Thank you, Ellen. That's a great, you covered so many points, and I love, your background, and I agree with you. What a wonderful thing to know that you're where you want to be for the rest of your career. I can certainly relate to that feeling especially when every day is different, you get to work with so many different people. If you enjoy that kind of thing, then it sounds like you're definitely in the right place. So I appreciate that. You also covered some things that I definitely want to highlight, which is people who want to get involved in volunteering with Special Olympics or even seeking opportunities for employment or involvement in some capacity. I can speak definitely for the people on our staff at Anderson who pursued coaching opportunities. And I just think it's a good way to sort of plug the benefits that you will receive as just an individual human person when you take that step to become a coach. People have really enjoyed that role. And I believe there's still a need for probably new cohorts of coaches across organizations and maybe even within Special Olympics New York. So is there a place that you would send somebody for more information to, if they're interested in getting more involved in a coaching or other capacities, or a website or some place you'd want them to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. They can reach out to us directly. On our website, I think is probably the best way to get in touch with us, which is SpecialOlympicsNewYork.org. That's probably the easiest way to reach out. And there's a whole section there on coaching. And once you get in there, all of our regions are broken out demographically. And if you have a specific area where you reside, just click on that area and it'll tell you. You'll see my name under where I'm at. And you can reach out to me directly. You can reach out to the folks in our offices, and we can certainly hook you up as to anything and everything that you'd want to do. You want to volunteer for the day? Fantastic. You want to volunteer for an hour? We're good with that. You want to volunteer for the rest of your life? We'll rope you in, whatever, we're good.
Right. That's awesome. Start somewhere because, like I said, I know that when an organization is down on coaches, meaning don't have enough, right, it really does have a direct implication as to how many athletes can participate in that event or on that day or, for that season. And it really is, it's an unfortunate thing when that's the reason why somebody can't participate. So while we understand that maybe not everybody is ready to take on a lifelong career doing this, like you said, Ellen, if you can participate for an hour or for one event or for one day, or maybe a series of, one season of one particular event that you especially enjoy, it really does make the difference. It can honestly make or break somebody else's opportunity to participate as an athlete. So I would plug that because I know firsthand what happened when we didn't have as many coaches as we once did. Will, I think I'm going to save talking to you for the second half of the show, just because we're kind of getting close to the end of this first half, and I want to give you due time. So Ellen, if you don't mind, tell us sort of the status of Special Olympics New York. You've obviously been around for a long time. Then we had a pandemic, which had, I think, a pretty detrimental effect on so many things, including, at least some of the sports that were indoors in close proximity and all of that. Where are we today coming out of COVID-19 pandemic?
Right now, it was a rough and tumble in 2022, 2020, coming into 2021. A lot of folks, especially agency-based individuals, were still not able to come back to our programs because of agency restrictions, which totally we understand. So we were doing a lot of things virtually, which at least it was something that we were doing. But now it's fantastic. We've had a wonderful, wonderful rebound. And we're probably at 75 to 80% of what our capacity was prior to, which is amazing, I think, considering that we're, 3.5 years out now from that completely. So to be at 75% to 80%, that's pretty amazing to have our numbers have rebound that much. I think with the athletes, the coaches, maybe not so much, which is tough because we need to have coaches in order to have the athlete numbers up. The athlete numbers are fantastic. The coaches numbers are different. So the coaches have become very sedentary, I think. And that's a battle for us. So I'm seeing the coaches would rather do something different, not a lot. They've become very complacent and are like, hey, I binge watched something for 27 hours, which as soon as I got out of the house, from being cooped up for, 6 months, I spent a lot of time in the office because I was the only one still at 100% of work time because all of the rest of the staff were furloughed. So I was great because I was getting out of the house quite a lot because it gave me space, but still I wanted to be out. As soon as I had full reign and was able to go back out again, I was out 100% of the time. I just wanted not to be stuck in a space.
Pooped up, right?
Yeah, so Like, I didn't want to binge watch anything anymore. I still don't. But, people, I guess other folks, not so much. Like they're still in that mindset, I think.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
You know?
I think it's very hard to for people to get out of that because it was such a long period of time, and including young people who whether they were in school at the time, maybe finishing high school or in college, it really did have a huge effect on them.
Yep.
And just socializing is different and getting out is different. But I think, let's just restate before we go to break what you said, because I think this is important for our listeners to hear. Again, a real reason, a concrete, clear reason as to why taking that leap to contact Ellen to get on that website, which is SpecialOlympicsNewYork.org. It's Special Olympics NY or full New York?
NY.
Okay, SpecialOlympicsNY.org to find out more about coaching and how you can get involved is because, remember, they're back 75 to 80% capacity of the athletes who are participating in the programs, and the coaches' numbers are not growing at that rate, which means, again, you've got this growing number of athletes who deserve every opportunity in the world to participate in their sport or sports of choice, and some of them are missing out because there just aren't enough coaches. So on this, at least in my area of New York today, it is gorgeous. It may be a little chilly, but it is a beautiful sunny day. So look out your window if you're listening and think, you know what, I could be out there making an impact in somebody's life. And just by way of saying, again, start small. I can coach for an hour, and it goes from there. So I just want to push on that point again, because it seems like that's a need right now to get the Special Olympics New York program really back to where it was.
That's a good jumping off point.
All right. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ellen. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Will Smith, program and development specialist and 26-year athlete with Special Olympics New York. And we'll be right back. This is 1 in 36 weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder.
If I could be you.
And you could be me.
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Somewhere there's a river rushing through the woods while someone rushes through their day. There's a mountain looking up at the sky while someone looks down at their phone. A trail waiting to be walked while someone waits for a latte. This world is full of somewheres waiting for someone just like you. So go see yours at 154 national forests and 20 grasslands. And to learn more, visit nationalforest.org. The National Forest Foundation. See your somewhere.
And now, 1 in 36 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism, and I'm talking today with Ellen Pikula. Am I saying your name right, Ellen? Great. Okay. She's nodding at me, everybody, just so you know. And Will Smith, both from Special Olympics New York. Honestly, talking to you and hearing what you were saying the first half of the show, Ellen, just further reminded me of the joy that I recall seeing on the faces of not just the athletes from Anderson, the Anderson Blue Knights, who, of course, I love and support very much, but all of the athletes when I was able to go to the West Point Games, which was a really special event, and also the joy on the faces of their parents, their brothers and sisters, their fellow teammates, the staff who work with them and support them, their coaches. Talk about community engagement and community, like shared, joyful, exuberant experience. That's what comes to mind when I was at those events. So I'm just thrilled to hear that capacity is growing. Less thrilled to hear that coaches are hard to come by, but hoping that maybe with this little interview, we can get some people out of their living rooms and back in gear for coaching. So, Will, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you're doing with Special Olympics New York right now?
Absolutely. As mentioned, I've been involved for 26 years as an athlete and almost coming up on 5 of these years now. I've been working here in the Hudson Valley as a program and development specialist. So I assist Ellen with a lot of our inputting and programming into a lot of our competitions. I help assist at our fundraising events whenever needed. And I do a lot of planning and implementation on our local and statewide athlete leadership councils.
That's a lot of work.
Very meaningful work, of course.
Well, I'm thinking that because if you've been doing that for 5 years, but you've been an athlete for 26, was this a journey of yours to get to the point where you were working for this organization that obviously you were very involved with from the athlete perspective for so long?
It's always been a journey for me personally to try to always have meaningful employment. And when this was first presented to me, I was almost in shock that it came to be, and here we are almost 5 years later. And there's times where I'm still in shock and awe, only because I'm here to almost give back to to a lot of people that have supported not only myself, but to my twin sister Rebecca, who's also involved in a lot of our programming, and give back to people like Ellen and to people such like my coaches who have known me for such a long time and have seen me come to grow to where I'm at now. It doesn't even feel like work half the time. And to circle it back and now follow in their footsteps and help other athletes to reach their potential, whether it being at the highest level of competition or to provide leadership opportunities. Again, it's one of those things where if you love what you do, it doesn't even feel like work half the time. And that's currently where I proudly sit at today. That's
fabulous to hear. And listening to Ellen before say how, she remembers knowing you and seeing you participate when you were, a kid and now an adult working with her as a colleague. It's it brings to mind something that has recently been on my mind a lot, and it's been coming up in all sorts of meetings, and even in a couple of meetings I had just earlier today, where people are saying to me now, it's all about relationships. Everything all comes down to relationships. And I say that a lot in my line of work, and I mean it. And the two of you are reinforcing that it really, it often doesn't feel like work no matter what you're doing. If you're enjoying and sort of cultivating those relationships with your colleagues, your staff, your participants, the families, the coaches, and Special Olympics New York. Like I said, I had the pleasure of doing a couple of events with members of your organization over the years that I've been with Anderson. We had some zombie runs on our Anderson's campus that were really, really fun. Actually, my daughter, when she was 6 years old, I think that was maybe the first 5K she ever ran with me, was one of those races. And it was a great way to introduce her both to where I worked and running, but also to, what is Special Olympics New York and why do we want to be affiliated? So that was very cool. And again, also took my own children to West Point games and had a chance to talk to a lot of families. You probably hear this frequently, but I hear from families a lot that competitive sports is often something that when their child first receives a diagnosis, for us in, where I work, it's usually an autism diagnosis. It's one of the things that they kind of say, okay, well, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to be that parent in the stands cheering on my child. And maybe that was something that they were thinking about when they were first planning their family and that kind of thing. Do you hear that from families that this offers an opportunity for them to kind of get back something that they thought they would never have?
That's a big story because 90% of the time when we hear something similar to that, the parent is usually in tears and they come down and they're just like, oh my God, all my other kids went through this and I never thought I'd see this day. Now my kid, Timmy or Janie got a medal. Like I never thought I'd see this day. And that's always awesome. That's just, that makes, that day is always the coolest day because when we made this happen,
Yeah.
But, that's a great payday. It really is. That's a super thing.
We call that at Anderson the what is it? The silent paycheck, something like that. Something where, it's really sort of the thing that you don't realize how it's going to feel until it happens and it hits you and you're like, wow, and you should feel that way. You did do that. So, so that always struck me. I know it's a very important organization and opportunity for so many families. The other thing that I wanted to point out is a strong memory from when I was at the last West Point games that I went to was, being able to watch athletes in such an age range, out there giving everything their all and really truly just competitive athletes, some of whom were, I don't know, I guess just to be frank and honest, some of them which were older folks than I was expecting to see out running on the track and running these races. Some of whom were literally running right after a race where they were tiny little kids, who were having an opportunity to do so. So I think I bring that up not really with a question, but just a comment and an appreciation for, I left those days with well beyond a sense that the folks I work with at Anderson and their families felt positive and included and welcome and celebrated and honored and recognized, but that it was such an overwhelmingly inclusive entire day. That I kind of just, you want to recreate that feeling whenever you can. So I found it inspiring on more levels than I guess I expected to going in that day. So I will repeat again. If you're looking out your window on this sunny day, consider being a coach. You will then be able to gush as much as I am about Special Olympics New York and the opportunities that you guys provide for so many athletes. But before we finish, Will, I want to go back to you. When we were getting ready to come on the air, you mentioned that there is a new sport that you're involved with, called, is it floorball?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is?
Absolutely. We actually just had our first regional event for it just a few weeks ago down at Hendrick Hudson High School down in Montrose. Yep. It's a new sport that was offered at the international level that we here in New York just recently started engaging with over the course of this past winter season. And there's a lot of different carryover and rules that are involved that are almost catered from what you're used to from soccer and from hockey. There is not as much or hardly any equipment that is involved that's needed, which was great for a lot of teams that had kind of incurred some costs into floor hockey, and that was kind of another factor that was catered into that. But it's been a lot of fun to kind of dive into a new sport and kind of get the feel and see how it's like. And a lot of our teams here have been loving it so far and have just been looking forward into gearing into more opportunities that are going to present from it.
That's great.
It's a very indoor, fast-paced kind of field hockey game that's played with a bladed stick that's plastic and a wiffle ball on the floor. So you're playing with four offensive people and one goalie. The goalie does not have a stick. They just use their hands. They wear a face mask helmet, and that's it. They're trying to score as quickly as possible. There's a lot of running and speed involved. Substitution is done on the fly, and the guys are just really enjoying it right now. They're learning the rules. The officials are learning the rules, but it's really quick paced. And in fact, Will, who is being extremely, extremely modest, he and some of the what we call unified partners were selected to attend the 25 World Games in Italy. So he's going to Italy with his coaches and some of his teammates and some unified partners. Now, unified is a little bit of a different concept. So individuals with intellectual disabilities and individuals without intellectual disabilities will be playing together in a unified concept game. So,
wow.
Yeah, there's
congratulations, Will.
There's six guys that are his teammates and 4 individuals that are unified partners that will be playing together, and 3 coaches will be in attendance at that event.
All right. That's exciting. Congratulations. In Italy, not a bad place to have to travel.
No, not at all. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations again. Thank you for the explanation. Unfortunately, we're out of time for this interview, but if you haven't heard something that excites you about getting more information about Special Olympics New York and how you can get involved, whether you're an athlete, a caregiver, a professional, a coach, a former coach, a soon-to-be coach, then you obviously heard something today that's going to inspire you to get up and check out that website for more information, because this is a great organization, touches the lives of so many people, and is really important. If we're talking about optimizing the quality of life for anybody, then, recreation, team sports, team opportunities, and the ability to volunteer to support those initiatives are really, really all heavily involved. So I encourage you again to check out specialolympicsny.org for more information. And Ellen and Will, thank you so much for being on the show, and best of luck to you, Will, in your trip to Italy and your continued athletic success. And Ellen and Will, both of you, here's to more success as you move forward with Special Olympics New York. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you again. Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. And remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 36, a weekly presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. Join them for another edition of the show next weekend.